Usually, not many people read Japanese literature because, understandably, authors from a country with the most beautiful nature, mountains, and cities will write about nature, mountains, and cities. That's why little is known about truly unique individuals who saw the world completely differently, from the utter absurdity of existence to a life dedicated to the search for beauty. Yukio Mishima was one such seeker. Somewhere out there, super far away, I'm sending a signal. If you hear it, it doesn't mean it will carry the same meaning for all of you. That's roughly how Mishima's philosophy works: to endow the important with unimportance, and the unimportant with importance, and at the moment of one's choosing. He was literally a guy since childhood whom no one understood. He lived without parents and was constantly reading something. And, of course, he barely spoke to anyone. It was during this time that the period of awakening to fanaticism began. In his first book, Confessions of a Mask, he described how he absolutely loves it when someone becomes supremely talented, spiritually strong, and, no less importantly, dies with honor. That's why he was called the last samurai, even during his lifetime. He didn't adhere to a mainstream religion himself, and what he respected most was Bushido, the samurai code of honor, which is no surprise. The image of the Übermensch from Nietzsche's works made the greatest impression on him, and later he would invent and idealize this image for himself. He lived for exactly 45 years, and in that time wrote about 100 works, traveled almost everywhere, and even wanted to stage a coup d'etat. We may never fully understand the reason behind all of this, but nevertheless, the philosophy here is truly fascinating. Observation is the only way to understand that I am still alive. One of the quotes from his most popular work, The Temple of the Golden Pavilion. Briefly about the plot, Mizoguchi, the main character, is sent by his father to serve at the temple, and this kid falls so deeply in love with that very temple that in the end, he burns it down. On one hand, the character and plot are fictional, but on the other, the real Golden Pavilion was indeed burned down. The character described in the book is a reference to Mishima himself, a guy who barely speaks, stutters, and, most importantly, constantly constructs fictional scenarios. For Mishima, being an observer was much more pleasant, a way to see all the problems and imperfections of others while compiling his own journal where everyone occupies a specific place in the hierarchy of adequacy. One could say that in the image of this fictional character, Mishima saw a person who would spend most of their life in analysis rather than in constant struggle against something. Any argument with family always ends in reconciliation. So what's the point of arguing in the first place? On the other hand, people who observe rarely understand that truly selfless good exists, that someone can give something for no reason at all. The main character had a friend, and he couldn't understand why a person who was popular with girls and more self-confident would associate with someone who lacked all of that. The search for beauty is what the observer spends most of their life on. If the observer already has that set of people in their hierarchy from which they can build their own character, they will definitely remember the most important thing about each of them. One friend believed that beauty is unattainable and that it's all stupid absurdity. Another symbolized joy for life, openness, and generally the kindest direction in philosophy, existentialism. A person is alive, and that's already good, so let them find a reason for living on their own. The author is too brilliant, so this kind friend suddenly dies, thereby leaving the motives of the beautiful somewhat aside and leaving behind what remains. Therefore, the idea that beauty is unattainable leads the hero to realize that it is not only truly unattainable, but also takes away his freedom. And if the only reason for joy is the Golden Temple, then it shouldn't exist, because that is fanaticism. All his life up to that moment, he had constantly glorified it. But ideally, it's very difficult to see the line when you become a fanatic. You believe you cannot live without it, and therefore, no matter how pure the motives of the object of your fanaticism may be it faith or simply a cult of personality, you will still alter existing concepts to fit yourself, thereby creating a new narrative completely disconnected from reality. Burning the Golden Temple means ceasing to believe in the attainability of beauty, however magnificent it may be. You can only observe. His first full-fledged novel, which he wrote at the age of 25, is the most autobiographical. It covers his childhood, school, and many other things, particularly his love for suffering and the image of death. Yukio Mishima recalls that in his childhood, he was deeply impressed by the image of Saint Sebastian depicted in the painting by Guido Reni. Like all people who experience beauty at an early age, it remains in their memory forever. Generally, the entire novel is built on constant internal conflicts. If the main character liked something, it necessarily contradicted social norms. Understanding this, the main character stops fighting with himself and puts on a mask. And at every opportunity to show his true self, he conceals his genuine desires. Falsity is a major obstacle on the path to the true I. When a micro-individual puts on the first mask, they understand that they definitely cannot survive without it. A person exists as if in a theater, constantly playing different roles. Somewhere they cry, somewhere they laugh, and mostly never step off the stage. Mishima considered his life a theater, not only because he loved theater, but also because somewhere out there he stands and plays the role of the mysterious one, then the stupid one, then the intelligent one, and so on in a circle. And the people observing received pleasure, because if someone didn't like a scene of suffering, a scene of reconciliation or pure kindness would always follow. I consider this one of the most interesting books ever, because as long as the role is being played, the people who paid for entry won't leave. During his life, Mishima became a writer, a bodybuilder, because he believed the ideal exists only in an ideal body, an actor in the theater, and even directed his own film, playing the lead role in it. Interestingly, microphones already existed, but he decided to make a silent film. He was an ultra-nationalist, advocated for the restoration of the empire and the imperial spirit. He literally became anyone but himself, recreating himself anew in various forms. This is a book that literally won't solve any of your problems. But thanks to the fact that you begin to realize this, you either start living by changing masks or start fighting against yourself. It doesn't matter what you choose, because you still won't be able to fully know yourself in the end. November 25th, 1970. This day became Mishima's culmination. Together with 4 members of the Tatenokai, the private organization he himself created, he went to the headquarters of the Japan Self-Defense Forces. They had a meeting with a general, which he arranged supposedly to talk about Japan's important problems. Once in his office, they tied up the general, locked the door, and demanded to be allowed to address the soldiers. Then he went out onto the balcony and began making appeals about how people today are incapable of anything, how they no longer have that warrior spirit, and so on. And in the end, no one cared, and he was simply ridiculed. He realized nothing would come of it, and simply stabbed himself, committing seppuku, and his head was subsequently cut off by his second in the ritual. Fortunately, there is a film that clearly shows that this whole life was literally only for this single moment. A million masks so that everyone would think he was cool and definitely wouldn't do such a thing. A heap of works that gave him great popularity and made him one of Japan's most famous writers. He literally abused that trust. In the film, there's a scene where one of his friends told him, "Why live to old age if you won't have such a perfect body then? And you also won't be ideal." And he was the only one who didn't laugh at this. What is death? If there is no heaven or hell for you, then what does it mean? Just an ending? The end of a performance? Everyone bows to you, and you walk proudly behind the curtain, plus moral points. And what if no one liked it? It means you didn't play your role convincingly enough. You study and study, and now you're super cool, and everyone loves you. People form memories. You're awesome, cool, fun, like super Job-like. And what makes these memories more emotional? An ending where the main character has overcome countless obstacles, and in the end, the plot decides that's it. A cutscene plays, and you, sitting in front of the monitor, realize this is now your favorite game. And if you want to play again, you'll just start rereading Wikipedia. This plot was super short, but it was exactly as the author himself wanted it. Death. For Mishima, it is what adorns human life, creating more emotions. Therefore, for him, such a death was that epic final act. And to tell the truth, he really did make that finale epic. This whole life, only to stage the final scene. So, after rereading his biography several times, you understand that everything looked planned from the very beginning, as if it were a cliché. Everyone knew it would happen, but no one expected it.